As the title of this video suggests, I want to talk about our community and the controversy I brought upon the same in recent days. I'm going to do that by first making some clarifications, and second by showing some contrition. In other words, I want to address some of the misconceptions that arose out of my well-meaning but ultimately flawed provocation of a few days ago. At the same time, I owe a number of apologies to a number of people, and I will get to that in a few minutes. First and foremost, however, I want to say thank you to those of you who took this opportunity to start a conversation about the shape and texture of our community. Most of the criticism I received was of the constructive variety, and even when my video was being torn to pieces, it was often done in a way that made me proud to be part of the Souls community. Equally, I want to express my sincerest gratitude to all those who sent me PMs to ask if I was alright after I pulled down my videos. I'll get to that in a minute as well. Given the length of the video in question and the sheer amount of information contained therein, I suppose I shouldn't have been so taken aback by some of the misconceptions that emerged. While, to be sure, I bear much of the responsibility for failing to properly articulate the points I was trying to get across, many of these misunderstandings seem to have stemmed from those who either didn't watch the video in full, from those who didn't watch it closely enough, or failed to actually pay attention to what I was saying. Whatever the case, I want to take a moment to clarify some of these misunderstandings. First, contrary to Patrick Klepek's Kotaku article, I was not the one who transcribed VaatiVidia's script, nor was I the one to run it through the plagiarism detector. This should have been clear for anyone who watched the video, as I pointed out more than once that I was quoting someone else, and said quotations were also included in text form in the video itself. At the same time, even though I did qualify the statements I made on the basis of these results, I should have gone to greater lengths to point out the uncertainties involved, and for that, I apologize. Second, VaatiVidia points out in his response that it's much too overwhelming for him to keep up with all of his social media feeds. In light of what happened to me after I released my video, I can now sympathize with this feeling in a way I couldn't beforehand. I couldn't keep up with all my feeds, and I'm sure that the messages I received accounted for only a fraction of those that he receives on a regular basis. But while it was wrong of me to read so much into this, he does go on to say that he did eventually come across the thread, but that he didn't respond to it because by then, no one was talking about it anymore. This is the point I was trying to make in my video, but I framed it incorrectly as an intentional act on his part. From my perspective, it shouldn't have mattered that no one was talking about it anymore. I felt as though I was betrayed by the very person who sparked my interest in Souls lore to begin with. It felt like I was wronged by someone I looked up to and admired. At this point, I honestly don't know if that's actually what happened, and quite frankly, I don't really care anymore. Third, on the matter of Let's Plays, I want to clarify that which I utterly failed to articulate earlier. VaatiVidia doesn't like Let's Plays, and that's his prerogative. He can produce whatever content he wants to produce, and it's certainly not my place to criticize him for that. What I take issue with is how he regularly expresses such derision for the very idea of doing Let's Plays. He has said, dismissively, that these videos only take 20 minutes to make, and to be fair, there are many Let's Plays out there that fit this bill. And yet, I can point to so many examples of Souls-related YouTubers whose Let's Play series are clearly high-effort endeavors. All one needs to do is look at Demon Souls in Depth by Franz, a German spy, or Let's Plague Dark Souls by PlagueOfGripes, or pretty much any of ENB's playthroughs. While I can respect that this type of content is not for everyone, I take exception to the way VaatiVidia demeans the format, seemingly because it's not the content he wants to produce. As I've said here but failed to articulate previously, it's totally fine if he doesn't want to do a Let's Play series, but that doesn't give him the right to make such sweeping generalizations about the quality of such content. My philosophy is this: there's no need to tear others down to prop yourself up. Just make the content you want to make and allow viewers to enjoy the content they want to enjoy. And I think VaatiVidia's comments on Let's Plays run counter to the spirit of this philosophy. Fourth, with respect to his appearance on Bonfireside Chat in general, and the discussion of the door on the Great Bridge in particular, my argument was not that VaatiVidia had somehow plagiarized Illusory Wall by failing to mention him by name. The point I was trying to make was this: Gary and Cole are proof positive that attribution is not only possible, but also that it's a simple act that takes nothing away from the person providing attribution, and that it can mean a lot to the person being credited. Of course, I don't claim to speak for Illusory Wall. I was trying to make a general point about community togetherness, but ultimately failed in doing so. Recognition, in other words, is not a zero-sum game. Fifth, and finally, I argue that VaatiVidia represents himself as existing outside of, or apart from, the community, and that he represents his understanding of the Souls games as beginning and ending with himself. While here too, I failed to properly articulate my point, and said some unseemly things, I stand by my argument nevertheless. In his response, VaatiVidya says that he didn't plagiarize my work or that of Redgrave because he didn't need to, while once again, I'm going to take his denial at face value because I just don't care about that anymore. It's the second part of that sentence which gets to the heart of what I was trying to communicate, that he doesn't need the community, whether that refers to me, Redgrave, or anyone else, because he can do what he does on his own. He says that he stopped reading Redgrave's The Pale Blood Hunt about a third of the way through, because it was coloring his own opinion of the story too much. While I understand this inclination, and in fact I tried in vain to do the same for a couple weeks after I started playing Bloodborne, I think this is not only unrealistic, as no one, and not even VaatiVidya, can exist in a bubble, but it also goes against what the Souls community has always been about for me. That is, that we struggle through the games together, that we struggle together to understand the story, so that in the end, we might share in the sense of achievement that makes these games and the community within which they are enveloped so very special. At the same time, this is just my conception of the Souls community. Of course, it's not up to me, or VaatiVidya, or Redgrave, or any other individual for that matter, to dictate what type of community we want. That's what my video was supposed to be about, community. But as a result of my own mistakes, together with the misconceptions we just discussed, it simply became an attack on VaatiVidya and his character. And for that, VaatiVidya, I am sorry. These mistakes and misconceptions were compounded even further when Patrick Klepek published an article on Kotaku which grossly mischaracterized me as a rival analyzer of Souls lore. And yet, few in the Souls community were even aware that I existed a few days ago. I wasn't VaatiVidya's rival before this began, and I'm certainly not his rival now. Rivalry implies, among other things, participation in a zero-sum game, which demands the creation of winners and losers in equal measure, which, once again, runs counter to my conception of our community, or at least what our community could be or ought to be. As I've said from the start, I had no designs on supplanting VaatiVidya or on bolstering my own subscriber base. I saw what I perceived to be a problem in the community, and I tried to do something about it. And yet, here I was, being described by Klepek as a rival analyzer of Souls lore. While I don't begrudge Klepek for doing his job, it was at this point that things really got out of control. Klepek's mischaracterization was soon picked up by Forbes contributor Eric Kane, who described me as a rival YouTuber. And with that, it was no longer a community matter. Indeed, Kane admits that he is not a member of the Souls community. While it would not be entirely unfair to say that I brought this upon myself and the community, I did what I thought was best. That is to say that I unlisted the two videos at the center of this controversy, so that those with the link would still have access, and set the remainder of my videos to private. Had I not done this, I firmly believe that the situation would have continued to spiral out of control. I felt like I had to resist this sensationalist media narrative, a narrative which I believe would have done nothing but tarnish the reputation of our community beyond that which I had already done. After all, how could I be perceived as a rival YouTuber if I had no videos on my channel? In short, I set my videos to private because, for lack of a better way of putting it, I wanted to keep it in the family. As I've tried to make clear, I believe in our community, and I believe firmly in transparency and openness. And for that reason, I am sorry for not being clearer about why I took my videos down to begin with. Throughout this whole ordeal, I've been accused of trying to gain subscribers, among other things. And yet when I took my videos down, I was accused of having something to hide. It was a lose-lose situation, and I'm sure this video will be received in a similar manner. Just know that, from the outset, I've been simply trying to do the right thing, for myself, for Redgrave, and most importantly, for our community. That isn't to say I didn't make mistakes. I did. And it's all I've thought about for the last few days. To VaatiVidya, while we may not see eye to eye, I am sorry. I never meant to attack you as a person. To Redgrave, I'm sorry if this reopened old wounds for you, and I hope that we can move past this together. To Cole and Gary of Bonfireside Chat, I'm sorry for bringing you into this and the stress and anxiety I caused you as a result. And last but not least, to the community, I'm sorry for distracting you from the games we all love so much. Even if we disagree on most things, I hope that we can continue to discuss what we want from our community in a positive, productive manner. I believe that we can cultivate a community environment that is more inclusive, where we lift each other up rather than tearing each other down. Be safe, friends. Don't you dare go hollow. Thanks for watching.